Welcome to the Jazz Flyte Podcast. I'm your host, Darrell Scott, and together we will dive into the lives and careers of the jazz legends who have left a rhythmic imprint on the world. Be prepared to reminisce on the highs and the lows of their musical journey and the trials that sculpted their timeless musical gems. We'll preserve the legacy of these extraordinary maestros and find inspiration in the melodies of their lives. Subscribe now and never miss a beat. Now, let's get to the show. Welcome to the Jazz Flyte Podcast. I'm Darrell Scott. Our guests today, two gentlemen who participate in a group that's been around almost as long as I've been alive. I have perhaps 17 different types of music from them, 17 CDs. You see a couple of them behind me. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Bob Mintzer and Russ Ferrante from Yellowjackets. Gentlemen, how are you today?
Doing well.
Good. Let's. I am always amazed at the longevity that groups have when they've lasted, and you guys have been around for at least 40 years. What is the contributing factor to your longevity of still being around, still being relevant, still making good music?
Bob?
Well, we love playing together. We really value the whole rather than the parts, and it means a lot to all of us individually and collectively to have this band keep moving forward. And quite honestly, I can't think of anything better to do with my time and energy. It's such a wonderful environment. There's not a lot of drama. We get along beautifully for the most part. We work out problems like adults, and again, we really value the opportunity to make music together and to learn and grow from the process.
Russell, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, all of that, as well as just emphasizing that it's a collective with no leader, so everyone is empowered to contribute music, to share in the good and the bad, the challenges and the rewards of this career. We love playing together. Another thing maybe that doesn't get mentioned as much as those things are we have really supportive families that let us, pursue this, because as you might imagine, we're absent a fair amount of the time, and our spouses and our kids have been really on board with us, pursuing this passion. And so if that weren't the case, I mean, I think, Bob, you would agree, it would be really difficult. So that's great. And then one other thing, early on, when we first began, there were record companies that were really working on behalf of the artists. So we benefited from getting a nice launch and support from, was Warner Brothers Records, that yellow record that's in your background.
Yes.
They helped launch the band, and we got some notice and got a nice push out of the gate. So that, and managers and all the people that have supported us, we've been very fortunate in all of those areas.
Russ, I want to ask you this question. Since you are an original member, you've been around since the group has been started, and you've had some personnel changes. We
Right.
can't deny that.
Yeah.
One of them was my good friend Ricky Lawson, played drums. How do you handle? You've had these changes, but you've maintained such a high musical acumen for no matter who was in the group. How do you maintain that going throughout all these years?
Well, I think it comes back to that idea that it's a collective, and whenever we've had a change, uh, we try to really incorporate the strengths and welcome the input from whoever is coming in. So um, when Ricky Lawson left the band and Will Kennedy came in, Will had a different style of playing, and it opened up avenues to explore musically. I mean, every musician has, a real identity and their strengths and their gifts and everything, and so we want to try to incorporate those into the music. And when Bob joined, his experience playing with great musicians and writing and arranging, playing in New York, that opened another area. When Dane Alderson recently joined, he's the age of our kids. He's from a younger generation. He brings in those influences, the things that he's interested in. So I think welcoming, the person that they are and their musical strengths has helped the band, stay vital and moving, and yeah, kept it going.
So, Bob, if you can remember, how was your intro into the group? It was already established, had some established players, blah, blah, blah. Now they bring you on and you have a role to fill. What was that process like?
Well, initially, I think the band sent me about 30 or 40 tunes that I needed to learn. It was an earful. But what I set out to do initially was and I like to use the term secret code, to learn the secret code of the Yellowjackets and just see the way they related musically, rhythmically, and to learn that vocabulary and try to add my point of view, but more from the point of trying to understand what was already there. And then as I became a little more comfortable with the material, I felt it was then appropriate to maybe step out a little and offer my, input in a greater
Right.
capacity.
What, Russell? If there was a point when you began to trust Bob, or we'll call it that, to kind of let him do his thing, make his music. What's that like? All of a sudden, you're bringing this outsider in. Now you want to give him more responsibilities. How did that work for you all?
Yeah. Well, we had and I have incredible respect for Bob as a musician and a human being. So that actually that was pretty apparent right from the beginning. And so our first really playing together was before he was an official member of the band. We invited him to record the record, which I think, it's back there as well, Greenhouse.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, we weren't really, we couldn't see into the future, but we invited Bob to play on that recording, and he, we sent him the songs initially. Actually, before the 30 songs to play live, we sent him the music that we were going to record for Greenhouse, and Bob came to Los Angeles, and it was just a really wonderful sort of, no stress, no drama kind of experience. It was great. And then we happened to have some gigs in Japan, and we invited Bob to play with us on those gigs. It was 3 or 4 weeks over there, and then it was really solidified. I mean, it felt great, and then, as Bob mentioned, he sort of saw what the band was about, and then could really start contributing music. I mean, knew what the band sounded like. And Bob, you can speak on this, but you always say he hears the Yellowjacket band in his head. You know, he's in writing music has that sound as a reference point.
So, Bob, prior to the band inviting you to come to, what was it, Japan, had you been there before?
Oh yeah, numerous
Oh.
times. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't this new experience, and you kind of go, "I've joined the band, and they're taking me to Japan. It's really cool." All right.
It was more like, I have a 1-year-old. Do I really want to be on the road
Oh,
with any band? Actually, that was my situation. And
okay.
so, I mean, musically, there was no question. I thought it was a fantastic situation, you know, in every way artistically. It was more personally that issue of being away from home. But I think, you know, over the next couple of years, I realized this was a very unique music and artistic situation that I very much wanted to be a part of. And like Russ mentioned, you know, my wife was, I would have to say, somewhat supportive. I mean, you know, to be at home with a 1-year-old, 2-year-old, with your husband missing in action is not the easiest thing in the world, and involves some pretty serious sacrifice. But I think she, having been a musician herself, could recognize, you know, the importance of what was happening and the fact that it meant a lot to me. So she really was supportive for the most part.
Very, very good. All right, let's take a moment here to listen to a song called Freedom Land from that album that's over my shoulder, or that CD that's over my shoulder, by the Yellowjackets on the Jazz Flyte Podcast. You're listening to the Jazz Flyte Podcast. I am Darrell Scott. We are listening to two members of the Yellowjackets kind of give us a history of the group. What do you all think is the main tool to maintain this 40 plus year history of what you guys have done? Because the music has never failed. The music has always been top notch, but the players are different. And having been a fan since the Yellowjackets album, it seems as though the flavor of the music has changed. Now, don't get me wrong, but there's this contemporary kind of fusion kind of thing with Yellowjackets, and then it almost seems like there's a turn toward kind of a weather report kind of acoustic sound. How do you handle those changes within the group, and once again maintain what you've done all the years?
Yeah. Do you want me to speak first? Yeah.
Go ahead,
So, yeah. I mean, my thought on that is that we're always trying to find new, make discoveries. That's how musical discoveries, and we're not so interested in just repeating what we've done. Even though, with the same personnel for periods of time, I mean, you're the same people, and, it's not going to morph, it's not going to do a 180, but hopefully each time out, we're trying to find new things. That's what excites me about writing music and playing, like making discoveries, So that's a constant. There's not a whole lot of consideration to whatever commerciality is. I mean, I think our music, it's maybe appealing because there's nice melodies, nice harmony. It's intelligently constructed, I hope, and all the musicians are wonderful players. But we're not like listening to the radio and trying to say, okay, this is getting played, let's do this. Or we don't have a record company telling us to do that either. They let us just be creative and do what we do. And I think that keeps it fresh, and it keeps us all engaged and excited about, continuing on. And the other, a more basic thing, I mean, this is, excuse me, a marriage of sorts. So anyone who's been in a long-term relationship will understand what are the things that makes that happen and keeps it going over decades. And it's, being unselfish as much as you can be, prioritizing the needs of all the people involved, and just all of those basic, relationship skills that we have to be aware of that, right? I mean, it's got to be in the mix.
Yep. I agree with all of that. I know personally, I like to do similar to what Russ mentioned, just, have a germ of an idea and in a very improvisatory way, see where it goes, how it develops. And then I think about my bandmates. I've been playing with Russ for 36 years, Russ and Will for that long, and then Dane 12 years. So there's a band in my head. I'm very intimately familiar with what each member is capable of, and what this gathering might sound like, within the context of whatever this musical idea I've come up with may be. And I mean, that's the first part. Then the next part is when I present, or anybody in the band presents a tune, it becomes band property, and then we all have input, and that idea may very well turn into something very different than what you had initially intended. And just the result of the collaboration turns it into something characteristically Yellowjackets, regardless of who wrote the song.
I was going to say, when we talk about writing, I'm guessing you all have input, but if you make one project and it's got 10 songs on a project over 40 years, that's 400 songs. How do you divide that up? How do you maintain the creativity? I have a tough time of keeping two thoughts in my head for 40 years. But what do you guys do to come up with a song for 1989, a song for 2000, a song for 2016, and so forth and so on? And then it's Bob's song. And then Bob gives it to the group and everybody puts in their input. Sometimes you gotta, I don't know how to say this, but say you gotta suck up your ego and take the input from the other guys to make this gumbo better. How do you do that?
It's called letting go. And, being on a team, being humble, and not trying to control everything, but just sort of throw something out there and see where it goes. I mean, that's my approach. And it took a minute to learn that, because prior to joining the Yellowjackets, I was either the leader of my own band or a sideman in another band. And typically I write a lot, by the way, and I'd bring something in, and what I brought in would be the finished product. Whereas with the Yellowjackets, things are definitely subject to change based on everyone's input, when you submit a tune.
Yeah. And
Russ, your thoughts?
yeah, and I mean, it's trusting that what the input that you'll get from everyone, and respecting their musicianship and their points of view. And it's all, for me, it's also I don't think it's like a trade-off, but I just realized that overall the best thing for everyone is going to be to have everyone fully invested in everything that we do. And even though if you feel like, well, I would have really liked the drum part to be a little different on this song,
Hmm.
but you know what? I'm more concerned and I prioritize William Kennedy being happy and really being a part of it. So I'm going to my little drum beat doesn't, it pales in comparison in value to that. And for each of us, the
Sure.
whole is more important than those little small things. They're insignificant, really,
Right.
or
And
less.
one of the beauties of composition is creating a structure, but allowing for each individual member to interpret and contribute, because inevitably guys in this band or any band are going to come up with stuff you haven't thought of that
Hmm.
can be revelatory. I mean, Will Kennedy is one of the great drummers in this music, and I welcome his input to see where he takes something. He's brilliant, very scientific about how he approaches new music, and Russ as well, and everyone in the band, quite frankly. So it's preferable to have the the leeway in your conceiving of the music initially when you present it, rather than saying it must go like this,
Right. Hmm.
to create a basic structure, but allow a lot of leeway for personal interpretation.
Okay, we're going to take one more somewhat break in the action. We're going to listen to, and I hope I get this right, Like Elvin, uh, on the Jazz Flyte Podcast with our guest, the Yellowjackets. Like Elvin on the Jazz Flight Podcast by our guest, the Yellowjackets. You guys are coming to town in August, playing at an outdoor venue called the Kane Park. What's the difference? And I guess it's acoustic. What is the difference between an outdoor facility versus playing? I'll call it a concert hall. Is there acoustically different? Does it sound different? Do you get more energy from the audience or what?
Well, yeah, it varies, but at, generally speaking, um, outdoor events maybe are a little bit more challenging to command the audience attention. It depends, but sometimes, it's a beautiful day, people are hanging out with their families, and there's lots of stuff going on in the
Hmm.
periphery. So, um, you know, you really have to, when we put a set together, well, I'll back up. We don't ever play the same music from night to night. We try to make a different, unique set every time, and we have
Really?
a lot of songs we can draw upon. But if we're playing outside, you can't get too esoteric. You need to really sort of be very focused and maybe a little, where in a smaller place you could maybe have more intimate moments. Outside, less so. Like playing to a bigger room, you have to, project. So that's a factor. But if you really grab the audience and you can, if that exchange starts happening, it can be really exciting because you're harnessing the energy of a lot of people. So um,
Mhm.
yeah, we've played in Kane Park before. I remember
Yes.
one time, and I always have to say this whenever we play in Cleveland. It's a special thing because my dad was born in Cleveland, and I have a
Oh,
lot of family there, and I really have great affection for the city. So it's a cool place.
well, for the city of Cleveland, I say thank you.
Yeah.
Um, Bob, what about you? How many outdoor facilities have you played at, and what do you? I guess it's what
Uh,
do you prefer?
we've done quite a few. It's not, for me, it's not so much whether it's outdoor or indoor. It's just, it's content. I mean, feeling comfortable and good about what results is contingent on the sound and the way we hear ourselves, the way we get a sense that the sound is getting out to the audience. There have been some wonderful outdoor concerts. I think of one in particular in Indianapolis where the sound was amazing and it just felt so good. I think we followed foreplay. Unfortunately, after the first tune, it started raining, so they called the
Oh,
concert. But
oh,
it was one of those days where everything just lined up perfectly. The sound was exquisite. I heard everything so clearly, and then it rained.
mm,
Ah.
mm.
But I mean, we've played indoor concerts where the sound was compromised for one reason or another, and it was more difficult to play, and somehow felt like our sound was not reaching the audience in a way that was, you know,
It,
conducive to a real good connection. So it depends on the acoustics of the particular space and the molecules in the air and how everyone's feeling. There's a lot of factors involved there.
it's very interesting. I was talking to a gentleman the other day, who was playing. He's a sax player, but he was doing like a one man show. And my question to him was, how do you assess the room from a sound standpoint? And does that really make a difference in what you do? And he was very honest. He goes, Joel, I try to do a walkthrough. I try to play a little bit and take a couple of people with me so they can hear. We go to different spaces. But I've always, because there was an occasion many years ago, I had a rough day at work. I just wanted to listen to music. And this is me, this is my personality. So as opposed to sitting in the fourth or fifth row, I went to the very back of the hall, sat up against the wall, closed my eyes, and just listened. Because there are occasions when all I want to do is listen to music. I'm not necessarily caring about what the other people around me are doing or what's going on stage or different conversations. I just need to immerse myself in what you guys are doing. And sometimes that's tremendous because it's like you wake up once the show's over and you're like, I feel so much better. It's that kind of thing. So if I asked you right now, what is Yellow Jackets working on? What do you have on your plate? What are you doing? What would you tell me?
Mm. Well, uh, we're constantly working on playing our repertoire best we can and rotating songs. We have, as you can well imagine, 47 years worth
Yeah.
of songs, gives us a lot of options. So we try to keep it fresh, play new music all the time, and try to approach it fresh. I think we all individually work on our musicianship and try to play some new stuff every time we get together. There's that. We're always thinking about the next project. And in this case, I've been pushing for doing a second recording with the WDR Big Band in Cologne, Germany, which I conduct. And we've done one already a few years ago called Jackets XL. And my idea that I presented to the guys was to maybe revisit some of the early material and arrange that for a big band plus the Jackets. So that's forthcoming later this year. That's what I envision us working on. Russ, can you add to that?
Yeah. Well, yeah. We've also we've been playing some concerts with the vocalist Kurt Elling. Last year we did a really nice European tour, and this year again in the fall we're going to be doing that with Kurt, playing. He's written lyrics to quite a few Weather Report tunes, and then Bob and Kurt co-wrote something. He sings on a couple of Yellowjackets instrumentals, so it's really fun. And he's an amazing vocalist and performer, creative force. So it's been really fun working with him.
So does the band or each of you as an individual have a social media presence? Are you on Facebook, Twitter, Reels, whatever? What are you guys? How can we follow you?
Well, there's Yellowjackets.com, which we keep try to keep a current itinerary, and there's an opportunity to purchase. There's, I think, like 3 or 4 Yellowjacket music books, and then a lot of our recordings, even some that are out of print, are available at Yellowjackets.com. And then there is a pretty active Facebook page. I think it's just maybe called Yellowjackets Jazz. There's a couple of them, one that the record company did, but one a fan from the East Coast did, and that's the one where there's the most kind of exchange and we engage with the fans. So those are 2 spots where people can connect with us.
And then you have to be careful because there was a Yellowjackets TV show.
Yeah, you want to hear this a little amusing story. So as one of the admins on this Yellowjackets Facebook page, I accept or reject people that want to join. And I noticed at one point we were getting all these young girls trying to join. And I thought, wow, this is great. We finally broke it through. And it turns out that they were all for the Yellowjackets TV show,
But every now and then you have to be careful, especially in this day and age of technology.
Oh, yeah.
As always, in talking to artists, there's always one thing that I want to do. I would love to be the fly on the wall when you all are sitting together trying to come up with a song set for a particular concert. Because don't get me wrong, I got a whole lot of Yellowjackets favorites. I'd like to hear this, I'd like to hear that, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So it would be very interesting to see or hear the criteria you use to make these sets. And then we all want to criticize. Well, why didn't they play that? Well, why didn't they play that? And then you realize it's 40 years of music, Darrell.
Yeah.
They can't play everything. You'd be playing 900 hours.
Yeah.
Russ and Bob, I want to thank you two very much. I look forward to seeing you at Kane Park in late August. Have a great time.
All right.
I'll do my best to sneak backstage. So if some guy walks up to you and kind of gives you a high sign, more than likely it's me. I will be very respectful. I don't, as much as I can embarrass myself, I will not embarrass you.
Mm-hmm.
But once again, thank you very much. Guys, we'll talk to you soon. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to the Jazz Flyte Podcast. That's Bob Mintzer, Russ Ferrante of the Yellowjackets. As always, if you like what we do, please subscribe, and we'll talk to you next week. So thank you very much.
All right, Darrell. Take care.
Thanks. Darrell.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to the Jazz Flyte Podcast. I hope you enjoy the stories and soulful melodies that groove through the doors of time. If you want to stay connected with the latest updates and episodes, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell. Until next time, I'm Darrell Scott.